Hi, everybody. This is Holland Martin for the Never Die podcast. And today, joining me is 1976 Marion graduate and Trester Award winner, Dave Colescott. Dave, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Holland, it's at my age, it's my honor to spend time with you. And I love your sweatshirt and I enjoyed meeting you. So it's an honor to be with you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you again. But let's go right into Marion Giant's lore. Now, you are the son of former head coach Jack Colescott. How was that coming up, being a son of a great coach and kind of probably having sports being expected of you?
I'll give you more than one word, but words like just beyond fun,
Mm-hmm.
a blessing. But the big thing that I remember is above all, he was the most perfect father,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a wonderful mother. But everybody says things like, "Well, didn't your dad talk about this?" And while my dad was a great coach, he was my dad first. And I guess the best way to describe him, he is a beautiful human being, but he's a teacher. And
Yes.
Dad never yelled. The only thing that he could say to me to break my heart is I disappointed him. And that's a hard thing to do. But yeah, to answer your question, can you imagine growing up with the grandparents and my dad being my hero and getting to go watch these Giant teams and just watch him in action and go to practice and have that in my life, and beautiful family and no care in the world. So it just I was definitely a lucky kid.
So during my research, I found out that he played for legendary Coach Friedenberger in Gas City, and I heard that Coach had one eye and everything. Did he ever talk to you about Coach Friedenberger over there?
What he talked to me about Wilbur Cummings. He talked to me about Mr. I get it right, Hensler, the principal. He talked about Friedenberger, who gave his basically his eye for the country and how much they influenced him. I think Friedenberger was his last year. Wilbur Cummings was his junior year. But how much respect Dad had for him as a teacher, but a leader. Fought in the war for our country, and then they're a pretty good team, back in the 40s.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I caught wind of that, and I thought I'd ask you. So now let's backtrack to the beginning. What neighborhood did you grow up in, Marion? What elementary schools did you attend? And what were some of your early sports?
Well, first of all, funny story about Dad. Dad's not a farmer, but I grew up across from Sunnycrest on Brandon Avenue. Yeah. And back then in the mid 60s, we survived one of the worst tornadoes and took out all our windows. And then one day Dad called the police and said he had a burglar in the back of the house. Mm-hmm. And it was next to a farm in a cornfield, and the cows got out, and he was looking at Dad, and Dad thought that that person looking at it was somebody going to rob him. It was the cow that got out. So the police chief thought he was drinking, but I grew up just next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
We had then we got up a little bit better when he got the head coach over to Timberview. Yes. And I played ball every day. I played wiffle ball. Mm-hmm. We played basketball. Luckily, Mr. Peden, Greg Peden, and Doug Peden's dad had a basketball goal, and we wore it out. We just played ball and played every sport, played football. But again, just a great time to grow up in that neighborhood.
Sure. Good stuff. What were some of your earliest sports?
Well, felt like I was in organized ball starting the third, fourth grade at Kendall. Mm-hmm. Played a little flag football again. I wasn't the most physical person, but I liked football. And then, of course, I played basketball. And then I was lucky enough to play Little League over at Lincoln Field. But
Yes.
I'd play any sport, kick the can. I'd play any sport you could play. I'd play anything. But basically, I was exposed to those big three sports.
Mm-hmm. And which one would be your favorite, may I ask? Basketball?
Holland, that's a great question. If you ask me if in November, I'd say, I don't know. But if you ask me December, it'd be basketball. If you ask me in June, I'd say baseball. And you ask me early fall, I'd say football. But then after I got hit a couple times in football, I wasn't the biggest guy. I would say basically basketball in the winter, and summer it was baseball.
Okay. All right. What middle school in Marion did you attend?
Well, I started at Jones,
Mm-hmm.
and loved that. We had to go over to the Coliseum for gym class, if you can believe it. So we went to Jones Junior High, and that was really the old high school. And then in the 8th grade, we opened up Justice over in Justice Junior High, and I got to go there. We were the Patriots.
Yes.
And then one of the biggest, the scariest moments is for me to go to the big high school with 3,000 people. And something that I, as a little kid, as I told you, man, I was a Marion Giant, and I couldn't believe it. I'm going to the Marion High School.
Yes, it's such a great pageantry with Marion and everything. When I first moved here, it was when I first moved here in November of '88, and that was when Coach Surface took McPherson and Richie Thompson, those guys, the first time down at the Dome. And I just fell in love with everything about Marion. I'm a sports guy. Marion's a sports town. And I think it's really what galvanizes all 5 county schools is the sports. And so I fell in love with it. And then I got to meet guys, Mo Smedley, Mr. Wysong, Dan Gunn, those guys, Coach Surface. And I was hooked. And I still am to this day.
Well, you got hooked late. I got hooked. I was born in 57. Dad moved here in 60, but I was hooked in 1963, the same as you. I would go to the Coliseum and watch my heroes, guys that, live in lore, like, Clyde Thornell, Rick Harris, the Stewart family, both the Stewarts, Harold Curdy, Steve Ward. You go on, and that's just the early guys, Mike Galt. And then just watching the next team come in, and of course, the 68 team with Meade and the 69 team with Townsend, Price, Suter, Myers, that whole Danny.
Let's talk real quick about those, because that 68, 69 team in basketball, they lost. Was it semi-state, or they lost real deep into the tournament?
Yeah, they both years we got beat. I know by heart, because that's one of the reasons all of us were so determined. But 68, Oscar Evans hit the shot that junior year, and both of them were the opening rounds of the state tournament. And we had that game 1 against Shortridge, and I don't care what anybody says, we got gypped because he traveled. But anyway, Dad never complained. And then in 69, all 4 teams were undefeated, and went up against McGinnis and Downing and Bill Green. But Indianapolis, Washington. Yep.
And the football team for Marion went undefeated that 69 year. Played at McCullough, I believe. They had, Chin and Jerry Richardson and all kinds of good guys in that era.
Yeah, Brent Myers was he was drafted by the Raiders, and I think I can't remember Roger Hamilton. I don't know. All I know, those guys were football. Like I said, that was before all the tournaments, but that was I think that team wouldn't have ever been beaten in football. They were just overall a great class of Marion High School. Probably the best class all around.
I've heard they said they had guys like Chin running the ball, and those guys, and just powerful, undefeated squad. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go into high school now. Like you said, you walked into the school with 7,000 people every day that watch you. How was that coming in as a freshman? Did you try for the team? Did they know who you were as a freshman, or did you have to prove yourself?
Well, that's a good question. Well, first of all, I should have told you, back then Justice was junior high was 7, 8, 9. Marion was so big. Mm-hmm. I think it was 1,000 per graduating class. So I thought about that, but I played for a guy by the name of Mo Smedley. Yes. In the 8th grade at Justice. Great guy, one of my buddies, and he probably one of the reasons that helped me. But then Bill Merkel had us as freshmen. So I wasn't as good as these other stars. I was no way even thought about. So my freshman year, I played for Justice. We won the city. Mm-hmm. And it was really, I'll never forget Bill Green, who was the new coach. My dad stepped down, and he came in to see me after a game at Justice. Mm-hmm. He was funny. He said, well, he called me hacker. He said, you hack a lot. And he said, you might be able to try out and, as a sophomore, and you could maybe you got to work hard and practice. And, mm-hmm. But, I looked up to Bill a lot. And, but no, I really wasn't thinking about, I was thinking about Marion, but, and really until I got to school in 74, my sophomore year, it hit me. That fever, I was ready to play.
Yes. What was your go-to move? Was it the elbow jumper? Was it the mid-range? It was before three-pointers. What was, when you got that ball, what spot were you looking for to take your shot?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you asked the question. I never met a shot I didn't like, and all my teammates will tell you that. But seriously, my first go-to move is I love to run on the break. Watching Joe Von Price, watching Cuddy Townsend in the middle and Suter in the wing, and watching those guys. But Dad always, you go back to, I don't know how you get all this information, but you go back to Friedenberger, you go back to Dad and his teams. He used to always say, you got to get out with your speed on the break. So to answer your question, my first thing I love to do is I wanted just to take the ball to the cup. Yes. And I wanted to score all the time. I felt like that nobody could stop me, and I'd love to come in hard on the 45, or I like going down the middle. But in half court, I don't know why. I think it's because nets back then would flop over watching Rick Mount, but I loved the corners. My corner was the shot I loved.
Nice. Beautiful stuff. As a sophomore, when did you gain that confidence of saying, hey, I'm one of the better guys on this team? When did that happen?
Well, if you don't mind, I can tell you when it didn't happen. Do you mind if I tell you, Holland, when it didn't happen? Well, I think you can tell confidence is never one of my problems, but, you set this up well, dreaming about a Giants. Well, I made the team. I had to try out. Mm-hmm. The night Bill gave us, after we made the team, he gave us our uniforms. And the only reason I wore number 20 was because it's what it started, and it was the smallest one. And so I took it home. I didn't take it off. Mm-hmm. And I wore it all night because, as you said, it wasn't a jersey. It wasn't a jersey. It was the Giants.
Yes.
Hey, fast forward, I want to take all your time. So I slept in it. And, I know you don't believe it. I wasn't thinking about it. So it was announced that I wasn't starting. I didn't care. And I didn't think I'd play. Mm-hmm. First, Dave Peake, I think, started at the point. We did all right, but we're against Wabash, first game. And I think about 3 minutes, probably about 3 minutes into the first quarter, I look over. Bill says, hey, get in there. And I flew in, I was ready to go. Mm-hmm. And I think, I was pretty happy. I think I came in, I felt like I was really nervous, but I felt like I was doing all right. I think I ended up with 8 points. I don't know, 9 points. Had some assists. Of course, I had some turnovers, but I thought it was okay. And coach, I think, thought it was okay. But I got home that night. I'll never forget that weekend, man. I slept good. I said, I can't believe it. Not only I'm a sophomore, but I'm a Marion Giant, and I'm playing.
Yes.
So I walk into practice. Never forget, on Monday, and I started having a little bit extra step, and I started singing I was important, and I come to practice and I start launching shots and acting like I'm the man. And I'm gonna tell you what, I've never been yelled at like that. Bill Green stopped me, and I'm in the hallways before practice giving everybody 5 and acting like I'm the man. And he said, you haven't done anything. What have you done for Marion High School? And I thought about it. I said, well, I hadn't really done that much. He said, we're getting ready to play Anderson, and those guys are going to light you up. And he said, you're nothing but a punk. He said, you better get your head on and, get serious and start playing. And, Bill, he always knew what was going to happen. We got blown out by Anderson, and they lit me up. And so I learned a valuable lesson. It's time to practice.
Did that motivate you, or did you sink your head?
A little bit of both. I cried to Mom, and of course, Dad laughed and said, "You stop whining, Mom." But he stayed on me. Between you and I, he stayed on me for the next year. So, there's no way I could have gotten depressed, because I wasn't going to let that old man beat me. No. And he probably did more to motivate me, other than my dad and the teammates. But I definitely learned that I had a long way to go, because I was only wanting just to be on the team. And the lesson I learned is he told me, he said, you think you're a big fish? He said, you haven't done anything. So I started setting my goals, and I wanted to be the best on our team. Yes. And then I wanted to be the best in the county. And then I wanted to be the best in blah, blah, blah. And it's something that it'll never take away from me. That's something that helped me in my life.
Yes. So let's jump up to the junior year. Now that you guys won state against Lagodi that year, and you had some returning lettermen and that junior year. Could you talk about maybe that junior season culminating in the win against Lagodi?
Yeah, well, before I get there, if you don't mind, the sophomore year, we lost some sectionals, so we won the sectional, and we should have won the regional, but I got hurt. I got stepped on in my head by a kid from Huntington. Oh, wow. So that team was full of juniors, and I was a sophomore. And I think what happened, I really believe we could have made it to, I don't think the state, but I think we really could have made it to at least the semi-state. But not that I was that important, but, I think they needed me at guard. Yes. But it set up the next year. And then our junior year, Bill never said a lot, but we had seniors. We had Paris, and we had Billy Lester, Rob Acord, and Kevin Pearson. Yeah. And I got to tell you, I've never played with 4 other players that I was as close to on the court and were as good. And I think collectively we said it was 49 years since we won a state and won back 26. And I think there's more than that, but the 5 starters, we all wanted to bring something back that we felt like in 68 and 69 that we deserved. My dad deserved, Marion deserved, with those great teams. And I think we were really focused on that one goal. And it was the best year I ever had. I felt like those guys, they taught me a lot. They were leaders. They were older. They always used to, beat me up and everything, but, they helped me a lot. So yes. I think that is one of the greatest teams in Marion history in basketball, because we had to do something. And I say we, mostly them. We had to do something that we have not done in 49 years.
to bring a state title to Marion, Indiana. So after winning your junior year, how was that in the off season? Now, did you play baseball at all in the off season?
Oh yeah, up until probably the biggest regret I had is I didn't play my senior year because we had the All-Star game. But
like tennis.
Oh yeah, and I didn't bring up tennis. I'm sorry, but I should have told you. My sophomore year, I decided since I wasn't that strong and I got beat up, and quite honestly, those guys that were bigger than me, I was always faster than most people. But in football, I was fast, but there were some big guys twice my size as fast as me. And so I'm going to tell you what, I was scared. So I told Mr. Lutens, I said, I'm going to play tennis. And Mr. Beekman, Bill Beekman, the tennis coach, that helped me a lot because I felt like I was so bad in tennis. I moved around a lot, had to go chase the ball. Yes. And I think it footwork. So, Bill Beekman was a great man, and I played tennis my sophomore year. So that was a good time.
Good stuff. So, and doing some research on the tennis MVP senior year, you and Dean Petros, 14-2 records. Could you talk about maybe some of your, tennis matches, and if there's any of them that stand out at all?
Yeah, well, first of all, if Dean ever hears this, he'll tell you we were doubles, but he did all the work. All I did was, again, I wasn't very good, but I could get to a ball now. I'm going to tell you, if they hit a ball, I'd get to it. I just wasn't very good at the strokes. But doubles was a lot of fun. Yes. I was never number one. But, for me to be on the team was great. And my dad always emphasized to me, Holland, that I had to play something every season. He didn't want me, he didn't want me sitting back, going to Burger King and drinking milkshakes and eating burgers. He wanted me out playing and competing.
Yes.
But I really felt like I was so bad at strokes that it helped me because I'd sometimes beat guys that were better than me from the stroke standpoint. I would just out hustle them, and I just wanted to win. So I think that was a good idea to help keep me in shape.
Good stuff. So now let's go into that senior year. Now, were you a junior all-star at all in basketball?
No, I don't remember anything. All I remember my junior year. I think after the season, but you got to remember that team was really not my team. That was, those four guys I mentioned. I think I helped. I added some quickness, but really, they were the ones that were leaders. I think I don't even remember if I was in CC or not. We just came on, and the great thing about that team, every player was in double digits from a scoring. Pearson, dominated boards. Acord was our rover. Just he would run side to side. Lester would do everything. He was, probably the best golfer, but he also was just a great competitor. Billy could do anything. He could handle the ball. He could shoot. He could rebound. He was a perfect three guy. And then Doug Harris was just, tall running mate, good shooter. And then I ran the point. So,
it's perfect team.
We were the perfect team.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to go into just kind of that senior year, and now you got guys like Myers, Payne, and Neal, and Jackson. What were the expectations coming off a championship your junior year? What was the expectations going into your senior campaign?
Well, you did a good job. I don't know how you get all these names. The only ones you left out was Fresh. He was my running mate. I went from point to two. Fresh, James Freshwater took, and then Dr. Jeff Bragg was our rover.
Yes.
He didn't replace Acord, but he was a lot like Acord. I think don't tell Rob this, a better shooter. But I guess expectations were to compete. We didn't think that we would win the conference. Like I told you, Bill was early on saying things like state championship, 49 years. never mentioned those words. He said, "You guys, Motley Crew, but Dave could help a little bit because I was trying to be like the other guys in '75 guys I talked about, the seniors." Mm-hmm. But Tuffy was the toughest guy for 160 pounds, but he was our center. He wasn't. He was tall. Mm-hmm. He wasn't a Kevin Pearson. We didn't have an Acord or a Lester or a Harris. But what I noticed, we had a lot of different. Bill just did probably his best coaching job. He he wouldn't tell us, but I think he was preparing us to try to find 4 other guys that would kind of meld together. And the great thing about Indiana basketball, you got, everybody has a chance. Mm-hmm. And so we had a very okay start, and then we had a real rough patch. Joe got suspended. I can't remember what. We had some injuries. We lost some bad games, and I really felt like toward the end, we were going the wrong way. We got beat by Central. But like I said, we had a great coach.
Muncie beat you guys that year toward the end. Mm-hmm.
True story. Bill kept on me. Like I said, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. He cared about all of us. But mm-hmm. I'll never forget that Muncie game. Joe B. Hall was in the stands recruiting me from Kentucky.
Oh, Kentucky.
Yeah, and he says, Bill, after the game, he looked at me, he said, "Dave, that is the worst game I've ever seen you play." Mm-hmm. And, he'd always say, "I'll tell you right now, Joe B. Hall will never come back and recruit you." And you know what? He never did.
What was it about that Muncie game that stymied you a little bit?
I think not complaining, had a little bit of back problem. Mm-hmm. I fell a couple times. Of course, you can't blame it on the injury. Yeah. Alan, just like, I felt like, I wasn't hitting very well. Didn't feel like I had, felt like a few things on the team. We weren't working well together, a lot of factors. But if you would have asked me that we would be state finalists or we would be ready for the tournament, mm-hmm. I would say bet you.
Mm-hmm. But you were a dominant scorer, 26.5 a game that senior campaign. With you, who was the second leading scorer and who was your counterpart during that year?
Well, that's what's funny about it. I think I don't have it exactly, but I'd say probably Joe Neal. Joe was a very, very strong scorer. Mm-hmm. But he didn't have a lot of, you talk about favorite moves. Joe didn't handle the ball well. Mm-hmm. So he really relied on me. A lot of times they were coming on me and I would have to dish to him. Mm-hmm. But he had a great soft 15-footer. I think then, I'm glad you asked the question. And after Joe, Tuffy was always around 8 to 10 points a game. James Freshwater never scored a lot, but I'll tell you, Holland, he did more to help us win. You couldn't find anybody to get after the defense. He did everything that, for me, he handled the ball, didn't make me do that. He played defense, something I never played a lot of. I like to shoot. Just a good partner. But a guy I'm glad you brought up that came on as a junior was Jeff Bragg. He at times didn't play a lot, but I never met a guy through the end of the year that could just light it up. Yes. And really what happened was we had then 2 other scorers besides me. And Tuffy and Fresh did more of the dirty work, what I mean by rebounding, not a lot of accolades, defense, steals. And then Jeff got hot and Joe stayed hot. And so we really had 3 scores and, the rest is history.
Beat Snyder last game, rolling into the tournament. How did you guys feel? Like I said, 1-1 junior year, wasn't really expected to win maybe that senior year, but how did it feel going into the tournament?
Like I said, my senior year, if you had asked me if we had made it more than I didn't even know we win the sectional. But what really happened is, like I said, Bill started seeing some possibilities.
Mhm.
And you look at the scores, I don't have all of them, but I don't remember ever winning a tournament game. See, the year before in 75, I think we didn't feel really tested through the whole tournament. We beat teams 10, 20. And if we didn't beat them that much, we kind of, not me, but coach, we kind of coasted. But the senior year, we knew that every game, it was going to be a 1-2 point game.
Yes.
We knew that, and what Bill did at halftime, I don't want to take away from the players because players play, but coach did a great job, Holland. What he did at halftime, he found out what they were trying to do against our defense.
Yes.
And a key thing that I don't think coaches get enough credit for, I think they get too much, but in this one, he would adjust to what the teams were doing. And I never met a coach other than my dad who would make adjustments better than Bill Green. And, we had confidence in each other, but we had more confidence in Bill because he just wanted to stay. He said, hey, don't worry. If it goes in, we win. If it doesn't, we lose. And we felt like every game. So, I had a little more experience than the rest of them. And we just started getting on a roll and we won the sectional. We said, hey, let's go for it,
Keep going. Keep doing it. Yes.
And by the time we got to the state, we were like, what are we doing here?
Let's talk about that. State championship game, Market Square Arena, Rushville. You guys ended up winning that game.
Yep.
But I watched it. I watch it all. So I rewatched it after I talked to you today. And I noticed toward the end, Tuffy missed 2 free throws. Then you hit both free throws. And then they hit one, come back like 30 seconds left. They fouled you. You missed one. And then I think you missed the second one, got the rebound, hit the shot as the buzzer went, 82-76. Could you kind of go back to that game a little bit? Trester Award, Mr. Basketball. That's had to be a special time for an 18-year-old young man.
Yeah, well, first of all, to even be down there, like, wait a minute, we're going back again. Probably the semi-state is when we really felt like, I can't believe it. We can do it because we beat Fort Wayne Northside, and it's not as tough as Indy, but Fort Wayne was tough. So we beat Jeffersonville and never thought we'd get around them. And then, Rushville, it was like a surreal experience. We're all talking before the game, and, Joe was a little upset. He didn't get enough points, and Coach did his usual job. But, we kind of sat in the locker room before Rushville, and we're like, you mean we can do this again?
One game, and we got back-to-back states?
Yeah, wait a minute. It took us 49 to get one.
And now we got back-to-back. We can get that.
Yeah, and I'm pinching myself. And, of course, I think part of it, I acted like I knew what I was doing. I didn't. But this was new for them. And, but like I can't emphasize enough, a combination of Bill relaxed us. And, a lot of times, kids get in the game and it's easy to watch it or easy to do it in practice. But when you're in front of, 15,000 at that time market, we never felt, speaking for me, but I don't think any of them felt pressure because Bill didn't do that to us.
Yes.
And we trusted him and trusted each other.
He was calm, we'll be calm, Like you said, either they're going to make it, they're going to fall in, or they're going to bounce out. And
you just mentioned that starting out, that sweatshirt you're wearing, we had Giant pride. We had Marion, and we've been there, and you're going to beat us, and we're not going to let you. So, Larry Engel was coaching Rushville. What a great guy.
Yes.
They had the Goins twin. They had Miley. They had a lot of talent. But, we knew it was, I think the key was everybody can say a lot. We knew the game before we played anybody. We weren't blow anybody out. It's going to come down to the last 1 or 2 plays, and we said bring it on because we had the best coach.
Yes.
And we Marion, and we had our all of our fans. We had that Giant pride. We have that Giant pride, and the greatest feeling, I think you said it, I missed the free throw and I put it back in and I said, I just put my hands up and I said, number one, baby, we did it again.
Well, let me ask you, when I was watching that film, it looked like somebody cut you, like they tripped you up and you were limping a little bit. What were they trying to intentionally hurt you or what was going on?
Well, all year, remember I couldn't play football, but all year I tried to, stay focused. And I think a lot of times, I don't know if they did things on purpose, but back then, I don't think in my whole career I said much to another player, and the players didn't say much. I didn't. There wasn't much trash talking, but yeah, a couple times I always felt like I got out quick, and they like to, to hit me on the way up when I didn't appreciate it, but I just basically I was always taught that if somebody did something dirty, you just focus and you tell them after the game, look at the score, and that's our way of getting back. But yeah, it was pretty physical, but when you played at that time in NCC with all those Richmonds and Anderson, man, those are some physical games. So yeah, I felt like I got hit a lot, but they were trying to come after me in any way they could. But as a leader, if you're going to be a leader, you got to take it. And you got to stay focused.
Yes. Now let's go to the end of the game, the state game, your senior year, the awards. And they call you up there, and you got dad on the left, you got mom on the right, you hold the trophy. Talk about that feeling that you had, standing there with mom and dad on both sides. You won the greatest award a high school player can win, in addition to a medal. How did you feel standing up there in 1976?
Well, it's like yesterday. I can tell you exactly what I said, and I can tell you exactly what they said. But I leaned over. Mom was there. Dad was there. First thing I said, Dad, for you. And, Dad would say, not for me, blah, blah, blah. But, go back to 68, 69. I said, no, Dad, you can ask any of the 75 guys, especially to this day. Lester's around, Edwards around, Pearson's around, Harris is in Texas. But you ask any of us, it was because we all wanted to win it.
Yes.
And then, to get back again. And so I'll never forget, I leaned over and I hugged my dad and I said, Dad, this is for you. And he said, oh, no, Dad, no, Dad, no. I said, yeah, Dad, this is for you. And then I turned over Mom, she's my big fan. Yes. I wish she was with us today, but I said, Mom, I don't deserve this. I said, they didn't announce Mr. Basketball. I said, state championship and Trester. I said, Mom, I don't deserve this. He said, I'll never forget, God rest her soul. Oh, Dave, you deserve it, honey. I said, oh, no, Mom, I don't deserve this. And, it was probably the most special moment that, I had my whole life because at that time, I told you, Holland, starting the third grade, all I used to say on my birthday, I'd say, make a wish. I want to win the state. Yes. I want to play with Dad.
Back to back.
Yep.
So tell me this. I want to transition into North Carolina, but let's talk about the becoming an Indiana All-Star, playing in Kentucky, home and away game. How did those things go for you?
Well, again, I was lucky because I wasn't expecting Mr. Basketball, and that wasn't important to me. I liked the individual, but what I wanted. So announced later. I think it's hard for naming one player. So a big honor, a great honor, nothing like, the Trester or the two states. The two states are the biggest, and then the Trester. But I'll never forget, started all over. Luckily, since Bill, the coach of the All-Star, was the previous state champion, so I was lucky I had Bill.
Okay.
And the big decision I had to make is I wanted to play baseball because I really thought we could win the state in baseball, and I played 3 sports. I don't think it was the right decision, Holland. I decided not to play baseball. Looking back, I shouldn't have done it. I don't know how I could have done it both, but I wish I'd have stayed, in baseball. I let those guys down. Not that I was the only good player. There's a lot of great players. But, all we heard is Darrell Griffith, Kentucky All-Star. They're going to chew us up. He was Dr. Duncanstein. And we didn't have a prayer to beat Kentucky. And guess what?
You beat them.
We took them to the house twice, and we beat them both.
Yes, sir. Let's go into the college recruiting. How did Dean Smith find you? And did he come to Marion to watch some games? And how did that whole recruiting process take you to North Carolina?
Well, I'm not going to badmouth it, but I don't know if people know this, but Dad was always good friends with Mr. King, the AD, and then, of course, the head coach was also there's two Kings. And George King just retired. But I was a Boilermaker, because Jovan Price. Purdue was my, Ricky Mount. And yes. I just grew up, nothing wrong with Indiana. I'm an Indiana guy, but it was just kind of understood I was going to Purdue. And, yes. Unfortunate for me, Mr. King came to me and said, we got 4 guards and, I don't know how you play. And I said, I don't think I'll play either, but I want to go to Purdue. And, yes. It's not, didn't recruit me. They were just honest. And I appreciate that. They just said, with those 4 guards, Macy at the time was there. Seasting was there. And Parker. Come on, those 4 guys, all Americans. And so I said, well, it looks like I'm not going to my school. Bobby Knight told me that I wasn't big or strong enough. And, I respected him. And, they had a guy, and he asked me, he said, can you outmuscle Quinn Buckner? I said, no, I can't out Quinn Buckner. So, I think they said they would offer me one, but they didn't think, again, I would play. And, I had other schools, Michigan, Notre Dame, Clemson on baseball, Illinois, yes. Of course, North Carolina. And, Dean came to he saw me play a better game, not like Joe B. Hall. And so they offered me a scholarship, and I was blessed. And I jumped at it. He's, to me, one of the greatest coaches.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How was it walking on the campus of Chapel Hill that very first time? How did it seem?
You can never replicate Marion, but I'll never forget first blue-white game. I'm there, and Walter Davis, Phil Ford. They just won the Olympics, and I'm a freshman. We had our blue-white game, and I look out, and everybody's scared. They're looking at me, and they're going, "Why aren't you scared?" I said, "Hey, I played 8,000. This is only 11.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
I'm used to it, yeah." And but it was a learning experience, and I'm not comparing. I love both coaches, but Bill just takes confidence off just with me. And, every coach is different, but I'll never forget the funniest story. Blue-white game, I'm a freshman. We play each other, packed house, and it just place is rocking hot, and I loved it. And never forget tip-off. And we don't get the tip, and I'm guarding Phil Ford, and Phil comes down, and I'm gonna get him, and he goes around me, lays it in. I'm like, hey! So I get the ball back to the guard, fly down the court, and I said, that's no problem. We'll get it back. And so somebody, I think the guard gave me a pick, and I think I was 25, 30 feet out, and I let one fly, and I said, I'm back right away, and it went all the way in and out, and I missed it, and I said, oh no. So all of a sudden they come down, they score again, and then they missed the shot, and they get a rebound to me, and I try to make a great full-length pass to Lagarde, and he misses it, throws it in the crowd. He calls timeout. He looks at me and he goes, let me see. The man scored a basket. You shot the ball without a pass and a turnover. He said, what are you doing? I said, Well, on the shot, I felt it. And he said, well, come feel this. He put me on the bench.
Come sit there right next to me.
I learned very quickly it's not going to be an extension of high school.
Yes, it's a little bit different. And I did notice that, although you guys did go, so that freshman year, you went to the final game against Marquette. Did you play in any of that final game?
I got hurt in, I don't know why I was redshirted, but I think in third, fourth game, I broke my foot. We had a lot of Carmichael with that floor. But I was out until the ACC tournament.
Okay.
Coach decision for me to not redshirt. So I played behind a guy by the name of Phil Ford, and I think I played about 2 minutes. But I'll tell you what I learned, Holland. I learned that success can be fleeting, and newspapers are only as good as your yesterday's newspaper. And had to start all over again. And
yes.
I never sat on the bench in my life. And, so when I did play,
it had to be tough, chomping at the bit to be out there. We're seeing David Thompsons and guys like that, Ralph Sandler, or maybe not at that time, but big time ACC guys. And you want to get out there, I'm sure.
And the other thing, I learned to appreciate my teammates in practice and people that didn't play. I don't think people realize there's a big difference between, going out on the court and knowing you're going to play most of the game versus knowing you're going to go out on the court and maybe play 2 minutes. And
yes.
I learned a lot to appreciate my teammates, and I learned that success you have to work for. And sometimes I got a lot of breaks because of great coaches in Marion.
Now there was one thing I came across. A friend of ours, Mr. Rob Wiley, he said, ask Dave about the airball chant. All right, let's talk about the origin of the airball chant at North Carolina. Do you know what I'm speaking of?
Well, it seems I first want to make sure that Rob Wiley gave you the question. I want to hear, and I'm going down to my NC thing here, but I want to make sure that Mr. Wiley told you exactly the true facts. And yeah, I'd like to talk to you about it. It's a good story. So we are ACC champions, 79. People don't realize this. Dean Smith would get a very bad rap for four corners. They said he was scared to play it. No, that's not true. Dean Smith was never scared to play anybody, but he did not like zone defenses with guys that were slow. And I'm not talking about, well, I can talk about Duke because, Holland, I don't like him. But Duke in 79 had a guy named Jaminski, and he was slow, couldn't play defense, but he could stand in the middle at 6'10" and put his arms up. So Dean, before we even played at Cameron Indoor, he was so smart. He said, I want to have a college record to have a 2-0 game. He said, we won the ACC. We got to go to Durham, play Duke. He said, let's hold the ball the whole game. I said, what? And all this is true. And so this is 79. And I said, hold the ball for the whole game. So true story. They didn't know we're doing it. They're throwing stuff at us. They're talking. I mean, the Cameron crazies, that's another to talk about. We've gotten too nice. There's no love. I mean, it was tough. But anyway, we in the locker room, I said, we're going to do it. He said, yep, Dave, you just hold the ball. I said, hold the ball. He said, hold the ball. We got to get to tip. So Worthy got hurt. So I don't know how we did it, but Chicky got us tip against Jaminski. So I'm telling you, Holland, for the first, they were unscreaming for the first at least 10 minutes. I'm just sitting there just like this, holding the ball. My legs are tight.
Defense or anything?
They just sit back in their zone. And I thought they'd come out. And everybody's looking at each other. It was the greatest thing because, the Cameron crazies are yelling. And all of a sudden, they were just like this. It was quiet. And so then they I don't know what happened. I think something happened. Ball was deflected, but there was a timeout. So they came out and then they started changing the strategy. But there was probably, there's 20-minute halves. There was at least 9 minutes, and we cut off 11. It was 0-0. I was cracking up.
Wow.
And but I got to tell you, my body, not that it's great shape, but when you're used to playing and then you have to hold the ball,
you want to move.
I wasn't moving and I was tight. So then I had to start in the four corners, and I thought I did pretty good job. Before, I would just hold the ball. They were trying to trap, and we finally got them out of the zone, 0-0. So long story short, I had to run more of the four. I would pass the ball. They tried to trap. Yes. I'd go around them, stop around the free throw line. And, I'll never forget as long as I live. Coach said, Chicky Honaker was our center. He kept saying, what's a good shot? And Coach said, we want a layup. We want to be ahead 2-0, hold them on there, and then we make them come out and play us. Mm-hmm. So 0-0. It's like it's yesterday. It's my fault, but I'm in the middle, and I pass it to our center, and he's out about 20 feet. Mm-hmm. And Holland, I don't know why. To this day, I can't tell you why. I look at him and I thought he'd pass it back. We're holding the ball for the half, 0-0. He looks at the basket, 20-footer.
And shoots.
And shoots. And, I'm like, what? And then I got back on defense because I didn't think he'd shoot it. So I don't know who it was. I think it was Denard or somebody. I threw it down, and Vince Taylor or Banks, I don't know, laid it in. I'm like, I looked over at Coach. I go, we going to play now? So we go down, we hold it for, I think it was under 5 minutes, and we're bringing them out, but now they're ahead 2-0.
Yes.
And I don't know why to this day. It was O'Corin, it was Al Wood, passed the chick again on the other side. Mm-hmm. And I'm not bad mouthing him, but 20 feet from the other side, guess what he did?
Shot it again.
And when I tell you it went over 2 feet, he didn't even hit rim, and it's where it happened. And the minute he did it again, the whole crowd in unison started chanting air ball. Mm-hmm. Now, I know Rob Wiley told you I missed the free throw. I'm telling you, I had nothing to do with it. It's Chicky Honaker, but it's true. He's right. I did it in this game, but I always hit rim. You know that.
Yes.
But he missed it. They went down and scored. I found somebody because I didn't get back. It was 5-0. Mm-hmm. And that is where, you ask anybody, that game is where the air ball in unison chant started. Mm-hmm. We came down, and then Coach said 5-0, let's play. Somebody missed a shot. And then before half, they made a basket. It was 7-0 at halftime.
Wow.
Second, we played them straight. We scored 40, they scored 40, but they beat us 47-40. But I really wish that I wouldn't be part of the airball history. But the bigger thing, I wish I could have been part of a 2-0 basketball game.
Yes, yes. And let's end it right there, Dave. I want to bring you back to talk more about that, but let's finish part one. And again, I want to thank you so much for coming on my platform. And I'm eating up all these stories, man. I'm just like a kid in a candy store. I'm a Marion Giant historian, and I've learned so much just by talking to you just a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? Because we both think about it. We don't know each other, but we have one thing in common. Besides our love, we got
high school,
baby.
Yes. So I didn't want to keep you too long, but we'll just close off now, and then we'll revisit again when I see you again for part two.
God bless.
Not at all. Not at all. Thank you, Dave.